I'm here at the MedtechVISION conference, and I'm thrilled to include Katie Arnold with us. She's been a major part of this organization, and so I wanted to get her thoughts on how everything is going. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, Matt.
So you just came out of the patient keynote. How did that feel?
It is exhilarating. It centers us for truly why we're here, and I think it's really one of the most unique things about the conference, or this conference. Rarely when you're at medical conferences do we get to get inside the voice and experience from a patient's perspective. We're so used to hearing it from clinicians, obviously very important, and industry, and the public sector, but we often don't hear from the patients, and it's always a real eye-opener when you're listening to someone out of the industry talk about the healthcare industry and their experience as a patient. So
Yeah.
it grounds us.
Well, it certainly sounded moving. You could hear so much going on there. Usually in a keynote, there's not much back and forth. So she obviously got people engaged.
She did. She's, in addition to being a patient, I think she had about 10 other job roles.
Was that right?
Yeah, she's been a dancer, a musician, a film producer. So she's obviously an entertainer as well.
That's the right choice. So one thing about you that people probably don't know as much as I do is that you are a tremendous networker. I mean, Katie knows everyone. And so I'm curious, in an event like this, do you see this as a chance to meet new people, to reconnect with old, or a little bit of both? Like, how do you approach this? Because your world is much different than someone who, say, works at Boston Scientific, Medtronic, or Abbott.
Sure. Great question. First of all, I would say this year is a little bit unique because we all haven't been together for the past 2 years. So happy to just see people in the three-dimensional form. This conference is I have been, as you said, at this conference for several years. My 10th conference.
Is it 10?
This is 10.
Do you get some kind of gift?
Well, we're all experiencing 10 for those that have been since the beginning.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a great opportunity to see people that you've worked with, but also meet new people in the industry, and actually more common this year is see people whose names I've been working with, but it's been virtual, and to actually now physically get to put them together, name and a face. So this year it's a little bit unique in that it's certainly a celebration of seeing people I haven't seen in years. Like
Who's
literally,
somebody that you went, oh my God, I can't believe it? Like, who's somebody that you just bumped into you haven't seen in 10 years?
well, not 10 years.
Has it been that
like
long?
3 years. No,
Okay.
well, because of COVID.
Right.
Right. So we weren't gathering, but I would say somebody that I've, right away, like at the hotel to see Amanda De Palma.
Yeah, she's incredible.
She's
a
great,
good-hearted
and
human being.
Jess Richter,
Yep.
from when I walked in last night to the reception. Obviously, Amy and Deb, it's always great to see them. But then, reconnecting with Lisa Carmel. I've been working with her over Zoom, but we've never actually even physically.
You guys are so similar. It's funny you should say that.
Well, we're now excited to
she's the same
get
as
to
you.
a place of now that we've connected and met, which again, these conferences give you that opportunity to reconnect with people like we are. I haven't seen you now in a couple of years.
I know it.
And it makes you realize that I think we took this for granted. I think we maybe didn't realize how things worked, and now I think as we move forward, we're at least going through that honeymoon phase of reconnecting with people and really appreciating and valuing that connection.
Yeah, for me, I was sitting out there at breakfast, and there were some people that walked out, and you realize how much you actually like that person. Like, my goodness, we're friends, and you don't realize it at first because you're like, well, we just work together. But actually, I mean, I've known about their families for years, and just getting to see them, and it was moving, over a muffin. The whole thing was very pleasant. So how would you describe this to someone who couldn't make it this year, or someone who's thinking about maybe next year I'll join the organization? Like, what's the best way to describe how this is all unfolding?
Well, first, I will just say it's great to see the fashion
Is that right?
about what people are wearing. We all always comment, you do have to say when you put a lot of women together.
Yep.
No, in all
That's funny.
seriousness, yeah, besides the fashion, but it is great to be in a room and you can realize the med tech industry may feel at certain times when you're in your workplace big, but you come to a conference like this and you realize how connected and small it truly is. And so I think the reason to come is first and foremost is to, if you haven't, create the relationships, nurture them, and grow them. And this conference does a fabulous way of allowing you to do that. Meeting new people, reconnecting with people you maybe haven't seen, and then through both of those, moving that relationship or that network forward, and you never know what it's going to grow into.
One of the things I love about it is the whole reaching back concept of some of you that have made it to a certain level of experience, responsibility, sophistication, success, making sure that the folks who haven't gotten there or who are earlier in their career, and you are a huge person as far as that particular point of helping anyone, is that something that's impressed upon you when you join the organization, or do you think that's just naturally organic and that's who you guys all are?
A little bit of both, but I think for many of us, our foundation was at Guidant in the Grow. Guidant reaches out to women, which it's not a coincidence that Ginger spoke at our first conference, and then last year we asked her to come back and speak virtually for us, really to recenter and remind us and inspire us that it's our responsibility to have these conversations. So sitting in there today, I leaned over to Ariel, who I'm sitting next to, and said, this is why we have to keep doing this. We have to keep having this conversation because it's so important to bring this room together and to be a part of it. And although you don't maybe think at the time, you're just attending any conference, the momentum and the inspiration and the experience, I think, has a ripple effect to hopefully the next group of professionals or any level of professional in the space of how important it is that this conversation be had.
Well, it's interesting you say that because the thing that always runs through my head is, okay, this is fantastic. What happens tomorrow? What else can we do? What is the other amplification? What are the other programs? Just what else can we do to continue as a momentum, as you said, next week?
I think what we can continue to do is to continue to have the conversation, is to carry the dialogue forward about how important it is to have diversity, inclusion, different perspectives. Research shows that when you have those things, it's actually Northwestern, as you know, who I'm a part of, just had some research come out where they partnered, I can't remember the other academic institution, so I don't want to name it wrong, but they showed that diverse teams for early stage, specifically life science companies, when you have diversity in the team, it actually increases the chance of success for the idea. Research and data is showing how important it is to have diversity, and this data was even in life science. I should forward that to you.
I would love it because
I just sent it out to my team. Actually, it was this weekend, it just came out, the research.
Well, and it's only going to further validate the whole point of the reason why we get together.
Why we're doing this.
And it also reaches out to those people who either haven't thought of it or are a bit resistant to it, or ones who say, show me data. Well, here you go.
Right.
If you want to be quantitative or qualitative about it, we're going to cover both sides of that equation.
Exactly.
Here's how it feels, and here are the numbers.
Right. So it supports people in the C level.
Yep.
Whatever gender they are, but however they're supporting it. But then that then supports, as you said, the momentum of the teams and the people to participate. And then it reminds us coming to this conference of why we need to be having these conversations. And the patient keynote presenter, and Amy, everybody has said this, we thought what will it look like in, will we be done with this conversation in 5 years, 10 years? And I think what I'm appreciating as I get more tenured in my career and life is that I don't know if you ever get to a final point of made it. I think you always have to have the conversations.
Well, look,
Right?
what do
So
they say about history? Those who forget are destined to repeat it. So
Right.
if you don't continue reminding, because what happens is it has to trickle down.
Yes.
There are women who are 22 and 12 even. Like that conversation needs to keep having from people who are living it.
Right.
Because I don't think you can understand it if you aren't talking to someone who's like, look, well, I was the only woman in the room
Right.
on many occasions. And I think that that's powerful because it's not a story. It's you telling about your life
Yep.
as opposed to hearing a third or fourth hand.
And many times I am the only woman in a room.
Yeah, I know it. At Northwestern, when you teach, would you say it's split, men and women? Like, what do the numbers look like?
So, very fortunate to share that Kellogg, the School of Management at Northwestern, this year has a 50-50 enrollment.
Really? Sensational.
One of the main, leading business schools, I think one of the only to have that demographic. So I'm fortunate to have I would still say there are probably, I'm not quite sure in my class what it breaks down to, but there are probably more men, maybe, still, interested in healthcare innovation. I don't know why that is. But it is a mixed group. I also think that younger generations, at least I'm seeing that in my children, as I'm sure you are too, are a little bit more forgiving of or not forgiving, open to right now. Lots with gender identity,
Yep.
fluidity, and everything.
Well, that's an interesting point to think about is not everybody is one box or the other.
Right, so
And
it's a little bit more, but I do feel like I am teaching to a more diverse class, maybe than when I attended business school 20 years ago.
well, the goal, I think, is it diverse to mean diversity of thought and not diversity of really anything else because it should be
There you go.
fairly neutral across the board. Huh.
Agree.
That's interesting. And so how do we transition that all to the kids that are your kids' age and my kids' age, where like it's high school and middle school? Because I'm a believer in if you start them young and raise them right, it becomes rote. It becomes norm to them. And I'm wondering about that. Like, has the organization ever thought of doing programs for girls in high school and girls in middle school, or is that still too far reaching?
So we just kicked off this year the mentorship
Okay.
program, and we have 100 pairs. So we had to open up 3 cohorts, so MedtechWOMEN. And so that's great. So it goes to show you that, and again, that's not high school girls, but at least you start somewhere, right? And you start in the industry you know. But certainly, I don't see why over the years that can't become a part of the program, of the vision, of the mission to bring STEM or these types of discussions into the high schools, into the earlier years where, to your point, that's where you have to start it. That's where you have to expose.
For the boys too.
Absolutely.
You know, if
the
they
whole discussion.
take it as norm, then it becomes just not even a point of conversation.
Yeah, no, it's important. It is very important to start these discussions early and expose early. So I think myself, I actually go in and teach at the high school.
Do you?
I do. Yep. So that was important to me to be able to go in, and our high school has a entrepreneurship track, and I like to go in and speak not only from kind of what I know with marketing in early stage entrepreneurship, but also with gender diversity and being a woman in what's normally a very kind of male-dominated space.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sitting in. I knew you'd be perfect for this.
Oh gosh, thank you.
All right. This is Katie
Pleasure.
Arnold.